Hey BookTube, it's Liz from Book Learning. Welcome back. I have a Nico. Yes, I do. And a Marcus. With his fish. But I just finished Arlie Russell Hochschild's Strangers in Their Own Land. Anger and Mourning on the American Right, A Journey to the Heart of Our Political Divide. It is a nonfiction book. It is a nonfiction book where the author tries to understand the conservative. And at the time she was writing this book, she was focusing principally on the Tea Party as an expression of the far right. Although in a somewhat weak chapter, I think it was chapter 15, she tries to tie a knot between the Tea Party and the rise of Donald Trump. I think that was a nod to the timing of the publication of this book, and certainly today she would probably have tried to do something similar with the alt-right expressions of ultra-conservative mindset. But I really enjoyed reading this book. It, like I said, she tries to understand the conservative mindset, and to do so, she is drawing on her sociology research methods. You know, she's an expert at these things, working at Berkeley. And she goes to Louisiana, and she chooses Louisiana as a sort of case study in contemporary conservatism. It is one of the worst hit states in terms of the environment, education, and economy, and they're all tied together in very complex ways. And yet, individuals with whom she speaks align themselves with the Republican Party, even though the data show that Republican policies only and not enhance, but exacerbate. That's the word I was looking for. They exacerbate the kinds of issues that are affecting these real people. Along the way, she catches herself almost unfairly judging the people with whom she is speaking, the volunteers in her study, essentially. Although she refers to them as friends by the end of the book. And instead of hiding those moments, she uses them as a way of exploring this quickness to judge. She calls it trying to scale the empathy wall, and refers to these moments of judgmentalness as being firmly on her side of the empathy wall. Ultimately, through deep discussions with many people in Louisiana, her book leads in the third section to a series of archetypes that explain how poor Louisiana conservatives have coped with the disparity between Republican politics and their lived experience. And she proposes, let me turn to the table of contents. She proposes 4 archetypes. The team player, so the party loyalist or the industry loyalist. The worshiper who just turns to God as a way of putting their trust in something outside of them to make things better. The cowboy who worships bravery as opposed to worshiping a god or a party, worships the idea of bravery. And then the rebel, who is a loyalist, a team loyalist with a new cause. And what all four of these archetypes of Louisiana conservative share is an idea of endurance. So they see the world. She creates as well this deep story that explains the conservative mindset and how it has developed. And they all share this sense of endurance. So we as the story, the deep story goes, we have fought so hard for these things. We have been waiting so long for progress. We haven't seen the progress we were expecting, but we will endure. We won't complain. This is the deep story, so take it with a grain of salt. We won't complain. We won't bemoan. We won't ask for handouts. Handouts is a huge thing. Nobody wants to take anything from the government, for example. So all four of these archetypes share this idea of endurance. And that's kind of the goal of the book, is to just understand. So the first two sections give some good background. She balances this kind of sociology work with other types of research that give a better context on Louisiana, including like history, politics, economics, and she creates this deep story that she checks with her informants, the people that she spoke to in Louisiana, to see if it made sense to them. And these four archetypes. The fourth section of the book is somewhat of a conclusion, but that she's not trying to conclude anything really. She's just trying to understand, to propose an explanation for why these good people, these neighbors, would vote for the Tea Party or for Donald Trump. As much as I loved reading this book, I think I would love to know if there's an equivalent that tries to archetype the left or any other part of the political spectrum. I know in the States, in the US, we often like things neatly divided into one group and an other group. Republicans and Democrats, blacks and whites. But it's easy, the hero and the enemy or whatever. But it's some other things have really got me thinking about this false dichotomy idea. And this idea of understanding the other as well. So in The Other Slavery, Andres Resendez describes how Indians, Native Americans, were enslaved in this very complex system of hush-hush slavery, first under Spanish rule and then within the realm of the early American West's economy. But nobody talks about it because slavery is the subjugation of blacks by whites. And again, he acknowledges at the beginning of the book that there's also white slavery, which we also don't talk about, which is the opening of Nell Irvin Painter's The History of White People, which I should get to somewhat soon. And then, if we've only archetyped the right, the far right even, it still allows us to distance ourselves from being judged. What is my archetype? What is my deep story? Do I even know? Who can say what my deep story is? Until I open myself to being critically examined in that way, I can still say and hide behind saying that I'm the only one who can really know and tell my story. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really got a conclusion here, but I highly recommend reading Strangers in Their Own Land by Arlie Russell Hochschild. It's a great counterpart to Hillbilly Elegy, and I think it's at the bottom of it all. The thing you should take away from this book is what will save American politics, if you think it's really in danger, is just honestly listening and having a good conversation, not judging the other, recognizing that everyone is your neighbor. Let me know what your thoughts are if you've read it. If you have any recommendations on an archetyping of the left book, and thanks for watching. Bye.